Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats, a part of the Hoops Crew Media Network. My name's Jake, and I'm joined in the virtual studio for the final footy recap show of the year. Cannot believe we started, I think, in March was our first probably recap show. Our last one in November, joined by Sambo and Johnny. How are you, chaps?
Good. Sad, but good.
About sums it up.
You're on mute, Sam.
Oh, no.
Why am I muted?
Oh,
That was a complete accident.
Deadly mute button.
I'm good overall.
that's good.
Good overall. That's good. Yes, sadly, Geelong's AFLW campaign did come to a halt. I was going to say a shuddering halt. Not really. It had ground to a halt a lot earlier this year, really. And, we had a little bit of hope going into this last week. Unfortunately, the Cats unable to come up with the 4 points needed to even put themselves in position of an outside shot. We're going to do all of our recap thoughts on Geelong v Adelaide, Cats v Crows. Then we're going to duck over to the Patreon, the Hoops Crew Patreon. We're going to talk a little bit about bright spots amongst the wreckage. So things from this season, which, when we get to fully grading this season, chaps, which I'm sure we'll do on an episode upcoming, I think it'd be hard to say that this has been a success of a season. I think that'd be fair to say if you look on balance of what was expected, what was achieved. But tonight we're going to have a look at some bright moments from it, some player development that we liked, things that gave us enjoyment this year and give us optimism for 2025. So that's what we're going to do over on the Patreon. So go check that out. You can start your 7-day free trial on the Hoops Crew Patreon, get extended versions of our shows during the bulk of the season. There's Wednesday news wraps, VFL men's and women's coverage, amongst other things. So go on over, start a 7-day free trial right now. Go on and have a go. Nothing
Right
ventured,
away.
nothing gained. That's right. And another thing that we want to do before we jump into the show is say a big thank you to our media network sponsor, Cyril Cook Florist. That's www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au. Cook spelled with an E. You can give them a buzz on 035 222 2244, or if you want to make use of your, personal friendship with us at the Hoops Crew Media Network, go on over and visit them in store at Shop 1211 Leather Street in Breakwater and tell them that the Hoops Crew sent you, and you will get a 20% discount off your next in-store purchase. This is a good thing to keep in mind, chaps, heading into this holiday season. There's going to be a lot of work parties, a lot of work dues, barbecues, breakups, etc. If you need to get some beautiful flowers, why not take advantage of the fact that you listen to our podcast, you watch our podcast, and knock 20% off? Why not?
Do it. Why not? What do you got to lose?
Nothing. Just 20%. That's
Yeah,
all.
exactly.
Let's jump in, chaps, to the meat of the show. That is the recap of this game. As I said, Geelong, they couldn't quite get the job done, unfortunately. We talked about it, heading into the last few weeks that, if this happens and if that happens and if we do this, then going into the last week, we're going to have this opportunity to put ourselves in a position to, potentially play our way in to the back door of the finals. But that's not, unfortunately, how it ended up transpiring. This is how the game unfolded. Geelong, they got the first goal of the game via the boot of Georgie Prasparkas. There was a flurry of behinds after that. 1 to Becky Webster and then 3 in a row to the Crows, leaving Geelong up 117 to 4 behinds. The Cats shot out of the gate really well in the second quarter. There was a lot of talk on the broadcast about, the Crows, they've peppered the goal, but not got reward. Maybe they'll be able to capitalise on that dominance in the second quarter. It was Geelong by the boot of Shelley Scott after 2.5 minutes and Kate Sermon after 6.5 minutes that pushed the margin out to nearly 3 goals. The Crows got a response by the boot of Caitlin Gold before Jackie Perry. Gosh, I've said Parry all season, and then I say Perry in the final recap show of the season. Jackie Parry bobs up for a goal after 13 minutes, 45 seconds. And the Cats take a 4-1-25 to 1-5-11 lead at the main break. But Chaps, unfortunately, it all unspooled after halftime for the Cats as the Crows got firing. There was 3 goals kicked in the second half. All 3 of them went to the visitors. In fact, Geelong were only able to register a further 3 behinds as the Crows went goals to Gould and Hatchard in the third term and a few behinds as well to take a 26-25 lead at the final turn. They got the last goal of the game early in the fourth quarter. Caitlin Gould with her third of the afternoon. Gould. The Cats, they got the final 3 scores of the game, but all behinds. A rushed, and a behind to Nina Morrison to fall agonisingly short of a first ever win against the Crows. They go down 4-4-28 to 4-8-32. Sambo, coming to you first tonight. What were your thoughts generally on the loss and how it played out?
It's a tough one because I actually felt really good for most of the game. You know, I mean, obviously, even when we were down, I thought like in that second half, and they were kind of getting over the top of us, and there was some frustration. I still thought we were handling a lot of things pretty well. But I will say, like, some of those fundamentals kind of let us down again a little bit across, and not just. I didn't think, not necessarily even when the pressure was on. I actually thought, if anything, we probably started to sharpen them up a little bit towards the back end of the game. But earlier on, there was some of those times where just the hand passes were a little soft, a little too loopy, and not quite enough in the stride of the player receiving the ball. You know, tackles not necessarily sticking, zigging when you should zag, etc. Like, I think overall, I think we absolutely could have taken that game and probably. I don't want to. I mean, probably deserved to. Like, I don't not to say that they didn't deserve the win, because they did. But I think it was one of those games where either team probably could have taken the deserved points, really. But I think had Geelong just cleaned up a couple of things around the ground, I think we would have got more repeat entries, kept that pressure on them a little bit more when the going was good. So there was a lot of other frustrations, you know, umpiring, blah, blah, that stuff that happened. But I think a lot of it was too little too late anyway. Like, I think we should have and could have probably put things a little more to bed early, even just not in terms of on the scoreboard even necessarily, but just in terms of like the way the game flowed. Like, when we're on top, but it still always felt like they still had a sniff. You know what I mean? Like, we were just sort of giving them enough of a look. That yeah, I was, no matter what the commentators said or anything like that, I was always aware that the margin never really ballooned out to any sort of astronomical degree. So there's some slight disappointments there, but I think the point of all that was that overall though, I did feel pretty good about this result. Like, I think if this result comes earlier in the year, I think we're not as disappointed. You know, if the season wasn't on the line and we'd had this game, I think you'd go, this is a great starting point. This is pretty good to go toe to toe like that, nearly take the game, etc. So I think most of the disappointment just comes from the fact that a close loss now is huge, whereas we've never beaten them. So a close loss to the Crows, looking the way we looked when things were going our way, I think is really encouraging. So, to take that into next year. But as I said, if this comes in the first half of the season, I think you're feeling pretty good about it. As the last game with the season on the line, it feels pretty brutal.
And I suppose, Johnny, too, like, it's a season in which it's the last close loss in a season full of close losses, Johnny. What were your sort of takeaways from the game?
I was just going to say, it was like our season in a game where there was really good moments of outstanding play, where the team just looked on fire, unstoppable, which they were in that first half. And then it just all fell apart, and they looked like first, second year players out there not sure in themselves and not using their ability and their skill and their speed as well as they were. And they sort of just let Adelaide get the better of them, get into their heads and just pressure them. I think it was just that extra pressure in that third quarter that really turned Adelaide's favour. But the Cats were putting a really good pressure on Adelaide early in the game, and Adelaide were able to wear it and just keep going and going. And then they had that break where they could readjust and go back out, and then they put the pressure on the Cats, and we just couldn't get around either the head around it, or they just sort of felt that pressure of this is the last game, we've got to win, and just sort of fell on those old basics of if we kick it inside 50, deep inside 50 high, we're more likely to score, instead of looking for the players like they were early in the game and hitting up the leading player, cutting it back shorter. So I just felt like they fell on old bad habits in late in the game, which is a shame. But at the end of the day, it's like the story of our season. We just were never fully there for the whole game. Some games, yeah, we were there when we beat Brisbane. That was like brilliant, absolutely perfect. But it also felt a bit of that was a really good game. But can we continue playing this way for the next few games to get ourselves into finals? And unfortunately, they weren't. Like, it was looking like they could. As Sam said, it just never felt comfortable the way we were playing in front of Adelaide. How far we got in front, it always felt like Adelaide had something else, and they did. And yeah, it's just disappointing, but also it's just like that was our season. Just never felt like we had that finished product at all throughout the season in this game. And yeah, it's going to be a tough 9 months waiting until the next season. But as Sam said, hopefully this sort of spurs them on a bit more, get on the right foot straight away next season. Because yeah, you don't want to start like we did this year next season and have the same issues running through the season. Because yeah, this team is far too good to not be playing finals. But there's so many talented players in there that we should be close to the top 4.
Do you think that, and you might both have thoughts on this, but there were times in the first quarter, I was just looking at the stats of the game. You know, we only went inside 50 23 times. I sort of felt like watching it that maybe we played a little bit too much with house money. It was like, oh, we had a lot of, possession early, and it's like, you kind of go, oh, well, it doesn't matter that we didn't get inside 50 there. We'll have another opportunity. But there's only so long in a game where you're going to have the upper hand on a team as good as the Crows. And eventually they take control of the game. And then it's like, oh, it would have been really nice to have translated our patch of dominance to another, say, half a dozen inside 50s and maybe another 2 or 3 scores. And then then you're probably looking at a game where you did kick enough of a score to really put them far enough behind. But I don't know. It felt like maybe, I don't know. I don't want to use the word surrendered, a position that you could have won from, but it was certainly taken away from us, and maybe a few self-inflicted wounds.
Yeah, I'd say it was more just, I just felt like we were outworked in that third quarter. Adelaide really outworked us and caused us to make those self-inflicting wounds where we're making some poor decisions with the kicking. Like some players who are usually really smart, really good with their kicking skills, but just either not kicking it far enough or just kicking it a little bit too high and just letting that Adelaide's pressure in. So yeah, I think getting outworked and just feeling that pressure, feeling that perceived pressure, and just letting it build and build until Adelaide just were able to not run away with it, but just control that game from the third quarter, about halfway through the third quarter till the end.
Yeah, I do think though, like you're saying, Jake, self-inflicted wounds with some of that, but also with the stuff just around the ground. Like specifically, I was talking before about the fundamentals, and it's come to me, as you guys have been talking, that the one thing that really stood out apart from the handballs, which we did, I think we went back to over handballing it again. Like I think
Yeah.
what was it? Handballs 119. Our season average
It-
99. So
Problem
so
was, it looked so good early on.
it did look good, and that's the sometimes the issue is one that when it works a couple of times, you keep trying it even when
Mm.
science is proving it's not working. Sometimes I think we just kept ourselves in a box, or like in a phone booth when we could have got out of there. So kept ourselves under pressure. We also had a lot of like a pretty high number of contested possessions, didn't we? Well, 98 to 152. So not crazy, but I did feel like we just kept ourselves under pressure a lot. But on top of that was the marking. Like I really thought our marking game, not like above the head taking screamers, whatever, but just the balls coming in, just catch it kind of marks. Like I don't know if people were like they were one step ahead. They're already thinking about turning and looking for a target before they've clunked the mark. The amount of times it would just bounce, and not players that this isn't like a situation where I think they really need to go and work on their marking, because it's players that can absolutely mark it. It was Amy McDonald, it was Chandel Eamonson, Parry, like a lot of these players, and it would just come in as like just a simple sort of catch it to the chest, catch it in the basket kind of mark, and it would bounce out. And then again, you're under pressure because you don't have that moment to turn, and this is when we're on top still. Like I think it felt a little bit frantic sometimes. Like we're either just hand passing it around in a blender, or we were kicking it, and instead of just taking a mark and being able to turn, it was bouncing out. And I felt like towards the end of the game, some of our players were actually preferring to wait for it to bounce because they'd lost confidence in their marking. Even Ashling Maloney did it a couple of times where one of them was Kearns did it. I think the other one was maybe Webster. Great sort of looping
Yep.
ball. It's Maloney versus her player, and there's maybe another player hovering in the 50 waiting to pounce. And rather than come out and meet it, it was like Maloney, her preference was to let it bounce and engage in a foot race to get the ball and then have another player to beat. So it was like, I think it did feel like their confidence in their marking was down. And so then once the Crows kind of got on top of that, I feel like the Crows were so good at beating us to the punch when the ball was coming in, because they knew that we were now not going to attack the ball in the air the way that we probably were earlier, even though it was unsuccessful. I think we were more aggressively trying to take possession of the ball in the air, and then we sort of stepped off a little bit. So that's just another way that I feel like we just let them just creep over the top a little bit, and it's very understandable when you keep trying to mark it and it goes wrong. But yeah, there's just a little bit of like sometimes it's like, oh God, just take a mark, give yourselves a break, give yourselves
Yeah.
a couple of seconds to have a breath. And it just didn't happen.
This is something I talked about a couple of weeks ago of like wanting to see Geelong go back to that better mix of how they were using the footy in like 2020, even 2022, when we really started to click and we raced in, we sort of surged down the stretch to make finals. Something I thought that really was a hallmark of that period of play was, yes, like you're saying, Sambo, there was good handball usage, but also what we've talked about is it wasn't overused. It was good use of hands to put you in a position to use your feet. And then you had those players like Chantel Eamonson. You had players like Michaela Bowen, who is an extremely good, user of the footy. You just had players on the outside, and I felt like we used the flanks really well to sort of pick our way down and control via the mark a bit more. But I thought that that maybe was a little bit of naivety on our part to think we were just going to run and gun and handball through Adelaide for a full 4 quarters. And they were the ones who eventually went, we're just going to kick around and mark for a while and make you run ragged, and then we're going to start moving the ball fast. You look at the marks, 8 of the top 10 players for marks on the ground were Crows. And even then you look at disposal efficiency, which sort of, works into that ability to control the footy a bit. I was just trying to have a look how many players Geelong had at the bottom end. It was something like 8 of the lowest 10 disposal efficiencies belonged to Geelong players. And there are some players in there who have been using the ball, pretty well over the course of time. So
look at their marking numbers too. The top
yeah,
6 players for marks
yeah.
are Crows.
Mm.
And then
Yeah,
there's 2 Cats,
9.
and then 2 Crows, then 1 Cat, 1 Crow.
Yeah. And that's another thing. I think it was Chelsea. Is it Biddle or Biddle, who had 9 marks? It was either her or Brooke Tonnen, I think, or both. I definitely remember Chelsea Biddle taking a bunch of intercept marks, but whoever was playing on Aisling Maloney last week after Maloney kicked 6 goals, I said she's a massive problem for AFL backlines. Who marks up on her? Who can take? Whoever that player was.
That was Prowse.
She was absolutely
really good.
exceptional. Exceptional. Yeah.
Her game obviously was just take out Ashley Maloney because she only had 10 disposals, but then not many meters gained, not many stats. But yeah, as you said, her work on Ashley Maloney was just a way you had to play against her, and unfortunately, the Cats couldn't adjust, or Ashley Maloney couldn't adjust her game to deal with it just yet. Like, she's only in her second season, so that's understandable. But yeah, I thought the same for you. It's like, geez, she's dominating Ashley here. She still had a couple of really important moments, Maloney, but got score involvements, score assist in 2 really crucial goals. But apart from that, it was a very quiet, demure evening from Ashley Maloney. Demure.
Johnny rolling with demure.
I'm not sure if I'm using that right. I'm sure the younger generation
Oh,
would
look
go,
up.
"Oh my
You're trying to be
God!"
one of the hip kids. Hello, fellow teenagers.
No cat. Full of bussin'.
Oh, yeah. It's so demure. Maybe we're all learning something here. Demure is reserved, modest, and shy, particularly used of a woman. So, John, I think
Oh.
you've you're being incredibly sexist here, and I think it's time to vote
I
you
am.
off the island.
I apologize.
That's a very
Please
demure
forgive me.
apology of you, John. I appreciate it. So no, I agree. So, honestly, if I was giving votes across the game, like Prowse or whatever, Prowse, she might have got in the vote because that was an absolutely elite shutdown job. And I don't know if you saw Maloney shake hands with her after the game.
No.
There was a shot of them shaking hands, and Maloney I think it was her, and Maloney just kind of, gave her a smile and a laugh, and it just seemed like a holy crap, you had my number all night kind of thing. I think Aisling just
sort of that sort of coming back down to earth thing, going, yeah, I'm good, but I'm not the best just yet.
I'm not going to get away with it every week. And two, that sort of, to quote the kids, game recognized game. Like, sometimes when you're a really good player, to quote the kids of like 20 years ago. Was there anything else that stood out from a game point of view that you liked or didn't like, either of you chaps, like things that stuck with you of like, oh, we need to fix that, or something that was like, oh, actually, that was good, we could build on that?
I thought it was a reasonably decent display of midfield work when of how we can operate when we get belted in the hitouts, which just seems to be what we're going to need to plan for. Because we did get belted in the hitouts, but we won the clearances, only lost center clearances by 1, and won the stoppage clearances by 3. So I thought it was actually pretty obviously when you look at the stat lines there, I thought like Prasparkas and Morrison around the middle, obviously were doing really good work. So yeah, I think that was probably a highlight. Like a low light is the fact that we got belted in the hitouts, but a highlight I would say was our ability to turn that deficit into a positive.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
by one is just that's the basic. Want to see our vision and awareness of where other Cats players are. There was just too many moments where we were just kicking it long and high, and Adelaide players were getting easy intercept marks, and you see Adelaide go forward, and they were using the vision and the ground really well to pick out players that are in really good positions. And I feel like the Cats, especially when the pressure was on, as I said, it just reverted back to we've got to kick it long to get it closer to forward 50 so we have a better chance of getting in the 50. And I feel like there's too many moments where it was just they rushed and booted it as far as they could instead of using their vision. So it's just be a bit more aware of surroundings and use that vision to pick out players a bit better going forward. I said it was
Bill,
perfect against Brisbane. They can apply it, they can do it. It's no issues there. It's just when the pressure's on, we just need to either raise that awareness of what's around their own player or have teammates going, you go, just run, you've got time.
yeah. You're saying we just need to be a little more demure with our ball movement, John.
I'm not saying that. That's
just
you. That's what you're saying. I am not using
putting words in your mouth. No, like do you know what parts of this game and parts of this season have reminded me a lot of is when I can't remember if we all went down to watch that North Melbourne final. I know at least a couple of us did. North Melbourne
I
final
did.
2020, 2022.
I think I missed it, but I don't know.
I think you
And we
might have.
lost in a low scoring game at
Mm.
Cardinia Park. And something that stuck out about the last quarter of that game is Geelong got well and truly on top. And they're trying to find that winning goal. And in fact, it happened a lot across that game where they were surging. The crowd got excited and Geelong were just kicking the ball long. And Emma Carney and co were just going, thank you very much. We'll just take that one. Thank you. Thank you. And I felt like there was a bit of that tonight where, on Friday night, where it was like, we've got to win it in 2 kicks. There's 12 and a half minutes left in the game and we're kicking it long and we're kicking it over the heads of our teammates. I think I was just reminded of that vibe a lot this season. I felt like it's something where we'd really taken a lot of steps forward where I hate the word, but like we were maybe a little more process driven in 2023. We're just doing the right things more often, doing the simple things more often. And this year, there was a little bit more of that, trying to bite off a bit more than we could chew at times.
They're saying they're a bit more demure.
No, the opposite, John. The opposite. That was a little too much sometimes. Sometimes it's like we needed to just bring it back a little bit.
Now you're saying you want them. Now you're saying you want them to be demure.
No, definitely. Demure, like this demure thing has been going around the internet. That we sound so unbelievably old and uncool. But
it sounds the demure to me sounds old. This to me
it does sound old.
This is an old word. This sounds like a
I think 1800s.
A word of repression from the 1800s to me.
I think it's been one of those. I think it's been reclaimed. I think it's become memeified. And
so maybe we either sound just old enough to not be hip enough to use it, or we sound so old we sound like we're from the 1800s.
Yeah. Either way,
Chaps,
we're from the 1900s.
Yeah, that's right. You're not wrong.
No.
Oh no, you are wrong. No, yes, 1900s.
Yeah, I'm right. We're from the 1900s.
Yeah, you are right. We're from the 1900s. Let's do some votes.
I think we should
get
into
You are really old.
Yes.
But you're also very demure. Demure.
I think
Let's let's just move on. Let's do
let's
some
move
votes
on.
here. Johnny, you can lead us off with your
Yep.
one vote. Who got it and why?
My one vote, I gave to Bella K. Smith. I just thought it was a good display early on. She showed some really good signs, good intent, had some really nice passages of play throughout the back line and trying to get it moving forward. There was one really nice one where I think she was against two Adelaide players. She won the ball and I was able to find a player a bit deeper in a really good position, and then they were able to move it up the wing and unfortunately kicked it out in the full. But I just thought there's some really impressive moments from Bella K. Smith that
Mhm.
there's a really good floor for her, and I feel like there's a possibly really high ceiling, and she's gonna most likely get a regular spot next season. And if this is what she brings, then I'm really looking forward to it. She seems very similar to a Becky Webster in the way she applies pressure and goes better football. And yeah, just thought it was a really impressive game and in a high stakes game for the Cats.
Yeah. No, I agree. I thought there was some really good signs from her. I thought you've seen that was the most promising game she's played, which is great for
Yeah.
her to leave the coaching staff with that impression going into the off season. Thought she looked really powerful, and explosive
Mm.
in close, like her ability to maybe throw off a tackler or two. And I think she could be a really handy physical weapon around the stoppage. I'm just trying to look at the clearance numbers. She had 3 clearances, which was equal with Amy McDonald and Kate Darby, for third most behind Prasparkas and Morrison. What was another thing I liked? Just 70% disposal efficiency too from her,
Mm.
which I thought was really nice to see as well. Sambo, who was your one vote?
My one vote was Monty Kearns. Yeah, just
Yes.
I thought she was electric. I don't know. I haven't got the stats to back it up, but it felt like there was some career best stuff in there.
Mm,
I mean, how many she got quite a few. What was their intercept possessions? 9, was it?
9. Yep. Yep.
9, 5 marks, 417 meters gained. Yeah, I just thought she was, especially one of those performances, a little bit like in a different, very, very different way, but a little bit like a Gary Rowan performance, where if you watch the highlights, you're like, that's the best player on the field. It's
Yeah.
just she doesn't necessarily do that stuff all game long because it's so spectacular. But like some of like that mark, obviously that she took, but
Mm.
some of her grabs, like I thought her hands were so clean on a day where a lot of us were struggling with marks, and so we were going for the let the ball bounce and pick it up, and then we were fumbling the pickup. I thought her marks were on point, and I also thought her pickups, like her judgment of the ball bouncing, her ability to grab it, some step arounds, selling candy, like and also her kicking. I feel like her kicking has also really got, like, she's always had a good boot. Um, but I feel like it's getting more consistent. It's like every time she kicks it, it's going where she wants it to go. It's going where you want it to go when you're watching. Um, yeah, I just thought, honestly, if it wasn't for sheer weight of statistics, she'd be higher on my votes. Like coming off the game, I think she was my 2. Um, but it's one of those things where then I get beaten down by the stats sheet when I go through it. Like I don't know, I don't know if I can justify this pure bias here. But yeah, no,
Well, you
I was really
can
impressed.
because it's it's what you thought of the player at the end of the day. It's your votes. You
It's
get
true.
to hand them out how
I should have
you
just
seem fit.
done it.
Yeah,
86.7 percent disposal
it
efficiency.
was a good game by her.
Two score
By Monty.
involvements. Yeah. And frees 4 too. Gave away 1 free, but 1 5. Like I think that's something of an anomaly too. The way she
Mm.
plays, like she's always at risk, but I thought she just walked that line, walked that tightrope so well of being pretty punishing, but always within the letter of the law.
She only gave away 4 free kicks all season this year.
That's impressive.
4
Good
free
job.
kicks. She won 11 free kicks for, career high in terms of total meters gained. And I'm just going to read off a few stats because she was also my one vote. She averaged 1.2 free kicks per game, 0.4 against per game, 70.2% disposal efficiency. That's a career high and 11% higher than her career average. Averaged 10.4 disposals per game. It's 3 more than her career average. And some other things, obviously rebound 50s are up 2.7. Her career average is 1.2. Intercept possessions, though, career she averages 3, and on the season she averages 5.6. She took 50 intercept possessions in 9 games. Her previous best in a season was 40, and that was last year and in 11 games. So she took 10 more intercept possessions in 2 fewer games this season. So she really has gone to another level. The mark obviously that stands out, the specky she took on the shoulders of an Adelaide player. But what I'm loving about her is just, I think what we've seen is a better understanding of the rules. And I love that, she had some seasons. I'm trying to think, it was season 7 for her, 2022, where she got injured and spent some time off the field. And I feel like this is her 4th year in the competition. She's had a lot of time to learn the game. So she's not giving away as many of those silly free kicks. She's more confident that she knows how the game runs and just more confident in her ability. I think when the game is on the line, you see her insert herself now to go, okay, we need someone to step up in this moment and get the game flowing our way. I'm going to be the one who does it. So I think lots to be excited about from Rachel Kearns. I'll be honest, I don't think she's got like a heap of growth left, but I don't think she needs to. I think she kind of is where she is now. If she keeps playing like this, she's going to be an absolute gun for the Cats. Like, I think this is if this is the consistent level from here on out, then you go, this is a very successful player and one of the first picked every week. My 2 votes to snake back the other way, I went 2 votes with Nina Morrison. I think she's had a pretty magnificent year, all things considered. Would you have 25 team high disposals, 10 tackles, 5 clearances, couple of goal assists. I thought she was pretty magnificent. And if Geelong had won, she would have been a big reason why. 14 contested possessions, second only to Georgie Prasparkas. She won 4 free kicks for, didn't give any away. So yeah, Nina Morrison was my 2 votes. What about you, Sam, and then Johnny?
My 2 votes was Prasparkas. I felt there was heaps of people I wanted to get in the votes this week. These 2 were, clearly the top 2. I thought, but tough to separate them. I really went back and forth. It was again going back to the stats sheet and basically weighing up. Prasparkas was better in this one, but Morris was better in this one. And I think that the tackles. So that's to give away the fact that I also had Morrison in, but she's my 3 votes. The tackles was what put Morrison over the top for me, but
I was
Prasparkas
going to
was
say tackles.
obviously
Tackles for Sam.
it'll always get there. But
I was pretty happy with the
actually,
tackles.
Prasparkas actually had a better disposal efficiency, which I think is a feather in her cap, because I think that is something that sometimes can dip a little bit with the nature of her possessions and her disposals being so contested and in such tight spaces. I think you do see her disposal efficiency drop pretty regularly, but I think hers was actually decent. Not 62.5. Anytime Prasparkas is over about 50, 52, I think she's doing well. So 62.5 is very good. And yeah, obviously that we talk about that kicking technique. She has to kick it on the outside of the boot every time, but she used it to pretty good effect, I thought, in this game.
Yeah.
This is one of the games where you do go, but if she can, maybe she doesn't have to get a left foot if she can do it this way. Like, she got the goal that way, she set up a couple of people that way. But yeah, I thought Sparks was really good, but I have a feeling at least one of you guys will have her higher, so you can wax lyrical about her longer than I will.
I've got Nina Morrison with my 2. Another really good game by her. I was happy with the tackles. I got tackles spot on this week in our Patreon match predictions. Just
Nice.
a little sneak peek there. So I'm not sure if we get time to go through them all. So I'm just gonna toot my own horn now. um, but yeah, another really good game by Nina Morrison. She's been pretty consistently good throughout this season, and similar to Georgie, just kept getting better and better as the season went on until run out of games, unfortunately. But yeah, another just really good game. She's going to be a superstar when she gets regular games and regular seasons injury free, and we can only wish that she never got those couple of ACLs early in her career, because if that didn't happen, who knows where she would be at this stage of her career. So
Mm.
yeah, she's a gun, and she's going to be an absolute superstar for the Cats well, she already is in my books.
Yeah, absolutely. Johnny, send us back the other way with your
All right.
3 vote.
Georgie Prasparkas. It's pretty hard to look past Georgie. Another just brilliant game. She's just built from after that injury. She came back after that injury. That first game was pretty good, and then since then she's just built into just her usual absolute brilliant player. As Sam said, the outside kicking works for her, and she can keep doing it because it works so well. Got a really nice goal early on. Got the Cats up and about. Got the fans up and about. Got herself up and about. So yeah, it was just one of those games where you sit back and go, "That was a nice masterclass of skill from Georgie." Yeah, she still had a few moments you'd probably like to take back, but overall, I just thought it was another brilliant game by Georgie, and she's just getting better each season. And really enjoyed the way Georgie McDonald and Nina just work so well together in that midfield, and they know how each other works, and you could see it really starting to gel yet again. And hopefully next season we get 10, 11, how many games they plan on playing with those three in the midfield, because we do need it. Those three are pretty big key cogs in the Cats midfield.
Yeah, absolutely. Sambo, your 3?
My 3 are, yeah, obviously, as I revealed, Morrison. For all the reasons John gave her the 2, I thought her probably the only knock against her game was the disposal efficiency was a bit down, but I thought she was pretty electric. I thought she was a tone setter, and was probably one of the players that was pretty darn consistent, and potent when we were up against it and when we were flying. So yeah, I just felt like she was probably the most one of the most consistent ones on the ground for me. And obviously 10 tackles is pretty exceptional.
I'll keep it quick. Georgie Prasparkas, 24 touches, a goal, 6 tackles, 10 clearances. And she just shouldn't listen to me or anyone else, I guess. Just keep doing what works. Like at the end of the day, the outside of the boot, it's probably just me being a grumpy old prick and saying, "Oh, I learned to kick on the left." I do genuinely think there are moments.
White male. You're trying to mansplain how to play football.
I genuinely think there are moments where we see it in the men's comp as well, where players are too 1 foot dominant, and it's like you would really be well served to at least develop a left or a right in certain circumstances. But there's no doubt that outside of the boot kick also opens different kicks up for her as well. And the goal was an exceptional one. And she's just so hard to tackle. Nina Morrison is hard to tackle because she's so physical and powerful. Prasparkas just has this insane ability to bob and weave, and suddenly she's clear, and she spins out of trouble. They're both very hard to bring down, both for different reasons, but they're a hell of a combo. So yeah, no, 3 votes to Prasparkas for me. Yeah. All right, that is all for the public part of the show. That's all. That's our recaps for the season. We are going to be continuing 1 episode a week during the off season. The next sort of one that I think we're going to probably do will be either the AFLW season recap, or it will be a bit of an off-season check-in. We'll give our thoughts on all the different, trades and signings that the AFL men's team has made. But it'll be one of those two things. That's essentially, in my mind, the next 2 episodes we'll do across the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned in and subscribe to the Hoops Crew. There's plenty of fun stuff coming along. Ben's been working tirelessly on some highlights videos. I know Paul will be back with some coverage when the fixtures released, and no doubt the draft and that sort of thing. So thanks so much for watching and supporting and listening this year. It's meant a lot. We're very grateful for it. And until next time, go Cats!
Go Cats!
Wait, go Cats!